I'm
No,
here with Drew
you're
Jenks,
good.
and we're going to be talking tonight about his life and the things that make his life special, the goals that he has, the objectives that he has, and his marriage, his move to Texas, his education, all the things that he's accomplished in his life and things that he still wants to accomplish. And we appreciate your time, Drew. Thank you for spending some time with us tonight.
Don't know if anyone's actually thanked you for this, but it's pretty cool to dedicate so much time to such a worthy endeavor, I think. So it's pretty cool. I hopefully everyone appreciates all the work you're putting forward for this. So I do.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I don't know if they will or not, or if they do or not. I mean, I was actually doing it for, I don't know if I want to say I was doing it for me, but it's a project I've wanted to do. It's a project I've wanted to do, but in fact, I at one time had thought that I pitched it to Vard, and I could have sworn he didn't really give me an answer. And what's interesting is, what's great about you guys leading off, you, Vard, Wesley, is I think that that's the kind of the crew that'll lead people out, because now that you're doing it, suddenly there's a lot of people that are interested. There will be cousins. I've got cousins on my side of the family that are already saying no, they don't want to be on video. And I expected that, but I expect also that you guys showing some bravery will make a difference for some folks. So
yeah, hopefully.
Yeah.
Hopefully don't look too bad.
Nah, not at all.
Yeah.
Let me make sure I got my question notes up here.
I enjoyed the videos for Wes and Vard. Those are some good videos. You know, it's instead of, the name of your, I don't know if it's your platform or a software that you've created, but Reality Check, I think it's the raw answers that you're getting from these individuals, from Vard and Wes so far. Those are the only videos I've seen, so might be more.
No, that's all there is right now. I think there's about 10 or 12 scheduled between now and Monday night.
Wow. You're going to be a busy guy then.
No, but it's good because I hadn't really thought about doing this for the family reunion coming up. It actually was just coincidental. I didn't even realize there was one until Tina mentioned it later. But somebody else said, "Oh, this is perfect. Uncle Tim, way to go. Way to get this ready for the reunion." I was like, "Oh, yeah, okay, yeah, you're welcome."
Yeah, that's awesome.
But I honestly,
right place at the right time, sounds like.
That's right. That's right. Find the parade and get out in front of it, right?
Yeah. That's a blessing about going about doing good. You're in the right place at the right time most of the time. So
I hope so. And the thing for me is I don't want to call you guys kids, but I love all you guys, and kind of proud of where your lives are leading and the things you're trying to accomplish. And I guess in a small way, this is my way of being a part of it, So anyway, thanks for agreeing to come on, and actually agreeing to come on so quickly, because it makes it easier for me rather than trying to plan, 3 weeks down the road.
Yeah, I didn't have much going on today, so just working in the garden and doing a couple other things around the house. So my wife tries to keep me busy, but it's hard. I get lazy a lot of the time. Now,
how long have you been married now?
I've been married since December 15th of 2015. So it's been just over 5 years.
They'll have all kinds of things to, I don't want to say throw in your face later, but it's interesting the things that they that they come up with later.
Dang it, Uncle Tim.
Yeah, you're in some kind of a discussion, and then they'll be, remember that time when you, I do now. Yeah.
Oh man, it's not fun, but at the same time it's fun, to be able to say, like, yes, we've had a lot of experience together. It's been a lot of hard times, but a lot of good times, and the good definitely outweigh the hard and the upsetting times, frustrating times. So
I think so. I mean, when I first started, in on Wesley and Vard, I hadn't intended it to go this way, but the gorilla in the room for those two was not being married at all. And so that was the question that came up first, just because, inquiring minds want to know. But for you, and this is just for me, is nobody actually even knows who I'm talking to or when I'm talking to them. I mean, they know it's going to be the cousins, but how any residual effects for you on the head trauma you had a few years back?
It's hard for me to say. I don't know where I would be if I hadn't have had the accident, of course. I was thinking about this the other day, just a random thought, just thought of it. I wonder if I would be a very different person, not really physically, but emotionally and even psychologically. My personality, I think, would be different. I don't think I would be driven like I am.
Really?
I mean, that's up for discussion. Some people would say that I'm not that driven. I like to spend time with family, and sometimes it comes off as, me staying at the house a lot of the time. And so some people, neighbors perhaps, or someone else who sees me do that, would say perhaps I'm not driven or motivated to work hard. But that's one of my priorities, is spending time with family. But back to the question. Residual effects, I don't think that I really have any physical, besides a little bit of how should I say this, lag in my left side, specifically my hand. You just pat on the table or something, like you're drumming, and just I can tell that my left side's not where I feel like it should be, because normally your dominant side's a little bit quicker, but the left side is just a little tiny bit slower. So
I think you dodged a bullet, because I have a brother-in-law that had a rather serious head injury as well. I don't think it was as serious as yours, but now he was older, and so his was probably different. But he's still not recovered. And in fact, a lot of head injury people sometimes will suffer with some residual anger issues, and he definitely has that. So yeah, I think it was a blessing. We watched you, recover and everything. We came down to the hospital quite a few times when your parents were down there.
I remember looking at the pictures, seeing those. I still have them, so.
Pretty cool. Well, I think you're a great example to everybody, because you went through that and came through it. And if nothing else, it's a testimony builder, I think, for people who were praying for you. So. Now that we got that out of the way.
I hope that it is a testimony builder. Of course, I was reading your Facebook, your tagline. I don't know if it's a tagline or your personal message is trying to bless the lives of others as much as I can, or something like that. And so I thought it's motivating, right? People read that, they get an idea of who you are. And so that's the goal, I think, is for all of us and all of our missions and all of the things that we do. I think it is to motivate and help others to see the light at the end of the tunnel, have that hope. I can't. Of course, I can't claim really any of my recovery for myself. Most of my recovery came because of the support that I had, family, friends, those that really got on their knees for me. So it was very hard, but I learned so much from it. And of course, it's because of the leaders in my life, family, uncles, aunts, cousins, those who were willing to take a step back out of their own lives and help me catch up. And I'd say that I'm somewhat caught up, but there are times when I debate in my own head how far behind I really am, or how far I have to catch up still.
Well,
I'm getting there. I'm getting there, I think, though.
Yeah, I mean, so along those lines, then, what I really want while we're having our talk is complete. What's the word we used the other day? Vulnerability. Like, my vision for this is that these interviews will help not only family members who watch, and family members from, by the way, from both sides of the family, my side of the family as well as Tina's side of the family. And I think that the strongest way for that to happen is if people hear, and I said the same thing to Vard and Wesley, that if they hear answers that are completely vulnerable and honest, and sometimes that's tough because as humans, and I'm no different, as humans, we want to put ourselves in the most positive light possible. And I think that's what we try to do. Having said that, sometimes as guys, and I'm doing a series with the nieces as well, but sometimes as guys, we tend to sugarcoat things a little bit, you know. You know, as you know, Kyler's on a mission now, and one of the things that came up, and because it came up with me, is when I went in to visit with my bishop before my mission, was I honest? You know, if I had some experiences that maybe I shouldn't have had, did I tell the truth about those experiences, or did I tell just enough to get by? You know, and I don't know that I remember whether I was or not, but I wonder, since I'm asking the question, if I'm being honest with myself. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So as we move forward, just try to be as honest as you can. I know you will be. You're an honest guy. You always have been. And we'll, if there's anything really bad, we'll just cut it out. So.
That's why I love you, Uncle Tim. Always thinking 2 steps ahead.
That's right. That's right. Well, the idea isn't to make anyone look bad at all. But I think that as brethren, you know, and as family members, I don't really think it's possible to help each other. For example, if I wanted some help from you, it really wouldn't serve you to provide any help for me if I wasn't honest with you about what I was struggling with, right? Because you couldn't help me. And so, you know, we got into this with Wesley the other day, like, if whatever it is, we all struggle with things, you know, maybe it's pornography, maybe it's something else, you know. I shouldn't use that example twice because that'll make me look like I struggle with pornography, but maybe it's something else where I wish that we had enough of a relationship with each other where we could just talk openly, just say, hey, Wes or Bard, or, you know, maybe it's Uncle Brock even, or whoever, right? Hey, I'm really struggling with this. What do you suggest? You know, and if I came to you with something like that, I would want you to be able to just talk to me openly. You know what I mean? Like, here's what's worked for me. Here's what, you know. Anyway, so without.
Yeah. If I could help, I mean, you're at a stage of life that's far beyond mine, and so I would hope that I would be able to help in some way. But
yeah, it is. But I'm gonna tell you a little secret. While you do mature, and I actually had a mission president tell me this, that whatever you struggle with in the mission field, you probably will struggle with for the rest of your life. Or at least it will be a set of decisions that continually come up for you, you know. And so because I'm a male, I will tell you that whatever, you know, you struggle with as a male, as a young 20-year-old, you know, until you really, I'm not sure you ever really learn how to completely master yourself in this life. You simply learn how to, I think, how to have discipline. Not that the challenge disappears, but your ability to handle it gets stronger, if that makes any sense. So I don't know, hopefully as you mature, things are different for you. I found them to be very similar, the same, if you want to call them demons, the same demons you suffered with early sometimes can stay with you, you know, until you overcome it. But even then, it's like Wes was saying, you know, you keep, Rudyard Kipling said, you know, you keep returning to your vomit. You know, you keep returning to your old behaviors until you just, we're going to move on because, you know what, I'm spending too much time on this.
For me, Uncle Tim, you have all the time that you would like.
Okay. All right. Well, tell me this. We can come back to that after we get a little more meat on the bone, I guess.
Okay.
What are you doing in Texas?
What am I doing in Texas? Good question. originally, so I finished school, BYU Idaho, and was planning to do medical school. And the schools that we were looking at, several schools, of course, but Texas was by far the most affordable. And my wife, specifically in the beginning of our marriage, was very set on avoiding as much debt as possible, which I am very grateful for to this day. And I will be for the duration of our marriage and into the eternities, most likely. But she avoids debt. And that was one of the biggest motivator in moving here to Texas to go to medical school. I had some prereqs left to do. And so I came to undergrad university here to finish the prereqs, and then I was gonna start. It was a sister school to the Doctor of Osteopathic Medicine in Fort Worth, and somewhere, in the first month of classes, it was in the first few weeks of those prereq classes, I was attending a society meeting, and there was a doctor there, and he was speaking to us about the profession and what we should expect, and the great opportunity that it is to be a doctor and to be able to serve and to cure, and well, not cure specifically, but to help people become cure and whole. And he said something that really resonated with me, and it was, you sacrifice some things in life. He was telling a story about his career, and he said sometimes you just have to sacrifice your time, your family time, and I didn't want to do that. So driving home, I sat with myself. It was about half an hour drive to where we were living from the university. After that society meeting, I was driving, and I just thought, I don't want to sacrifice my family time for a career that's, if my motivation to get that career isn't a worthy motivation, if my integrity isn't, how should I say that? If my integrity isn't complete. And so my motivation to become a doctor was to be respected, to earn a good income, be able to provide for my family without any issues. But even that's not a true statement, because many doctors struggle to be able to provide when they, have a struggle with insurance companies. Insurance companies don't end up paying them. But back to the story, I didn't want to sacrifice the time with family. And so I decided in the next couple of days that I was going to pursue a different path. At that time, I didn't know which path I was going to pursue. But at the time I needed a job. So as I was searching, got a job at Costco. Thanks to my mom for suggesting that. But yeah, Costco was my career for from 2016, end of 2016 to the very beginning of 2019. In 2019, I got a job after I did my public administration degree at the same university that I was going to earlier, and got a job in the city of Salina. And it's a very fast growing city, and it's been a great opportunity so far. And I've learned a ton. And we've just loved it here so far. It's been great. The people are great. And things are good. And here in Texas, the future, it's a bright future, but then again, things can change. So don't know if this will be our home for very long, but we're right now we're satisfied with Texas.
Everybody.
Did that answer your question? It was a very long answer.
No, it's a great answer. Everybody I've talked to that spends any time in Texas is just enamored with the place. So many good things going on there. And you may have already heard this from your folks or whatnot, but we're getting a Costco right here in Pasco.
I heard Road 100.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Pretty cool, right? So
yeah, no, it's Costco. Tell you what, I was so blessed to get a job there. They have some of the best benefits. They have a great culture, and you learn a lot while you're there. I did. So I guess it depends on the employee, but I did. I learned a ton while I was there.
I love Costco. So you're not there now?
No.
And so what do you do now?
Now I work for the city of Salina.
Okay.
It's a very fast growing city. Right now, the population is somewhere in the 20,000s.
Okay.
I work in administration. I will be moving departments. I'm moving around a little bit soon. But it's been a great opportunity. I've learned a lot about leadership. I work in the city manager's office, and so I get to see different leadership I guess the way that he reacts to things and how the leadership philosophy that the city of Salina has, the leadership philosophy is servant leadership. If you haven't looked it up or know what it is, I suggest it just to become familiar with it. It's a different kind of leadership than the other types that you hear of. Strengths-based leadership. Um, there's the old public administration where it was efficiency was king. Different types, of course. But anyway, that's where I'm working now.
Where is the city of Salina, like in relative to Houston?
Good question. I should have said that. So you have Houston, which is way south. Look, imagine you're looking at the map. So you have Houston down here close to the Gulf, right? And then up here you have Dallas.
Yeah.
Dallas is over here. And then you have Salina, which is up here, just a little bit further, past Dallas. So it's about an hour north of Dallas. You have Frisco, McKinney, Plano. Those are all well-known cities, but Salina is just north of those, those are just north of Dallas, and it's just north of those.
So is high school football as big there as everybody says?
Yes. These stadiums are millions of dollars that they spend their money on. Yes. Wow. It is really a big deal. We actually haven't been to a high school football game since we've lived in Texas, probably because other things going on, and no one's in high school in our home. So
your kids will be old enough before you know it. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
But then that's the most fun we ever had, on a Friday night, is going to those games.
Yeah.
Loved it.
Yeah. I feel like we've missed the opportunity to attend some of those. We didn't have the same requirements we have now with kids, but now it's a little bit more challenging to get to those games. But we should have when we didn't have any kids, but we didn't. We didn't take the opportunity, the chance to do that.
Now, do you have 3 or 2?
Just 2. Mm-hmm.
2 kids. Okay.
We have Lydia, she is 3, and then Miles, he is almost 8 months. And he smiles a lot. Lydia loves to be around him, be in his face. It reminds me of me when I was a kid. She just always touching him or in his face, one of those two, or taking away the toys from him because she doesn't like it when he takes her toys. So kids toys.
You see many snakes down there?
I've seen some dead snakes on the road.
Oh yeah, okay.
So I've heard stories of snakes, but I actually haven't seen. I think I saw one go across the road once, but other than that, I hear a lot of stories about snakes, but I haven't seen very many in myself. So stay away from the snakes.
As far as I'm concerned, that's great. I mean, I know snakes serve a purpose, but I don't like seeing them. So anyway.
Yeah. I guess to keep the mouse population down.
Exactly. And I bet that's important in a desert area, right? Utah's the same way. But well, what do you miss most about Washington?
I'd say family. Yeah. Family is the most important thing in this life. Well, yeah, most important thing on this world. Nothing greater, nothing more enjoyable, nothing brings more joy than having a family and working towards it, creating an eternal family.
That's good. That's a good answer.
And we're all going to be together as long as we work hard in this life, of course, and do our best. The relationships here we have are just going to roll over into the next life. And so if we can forge strong relationships here, then in the next life, I feel like it'll be easy to continue that.
Is there a strong LDS population down there?
There is. Yeah. A lot of it. We actually had a Area 70 come and call us to repentance for not spreading the gospels like we should, because people, the church is growing really fast, but it's because people are moving here from other places. It's not because we're doing missionary work. So we need to be speaking more of the gospel, and me specifically. I mean, I felt the call to repentance at that time because I don't do it enough.
Yeah, neither do I. I don't do it in a timely enough way either.
Yeah, it is a challenge. You have people who get offended, and you have people who might report you or get you in trouble with the HR department or something. That's not something we should worry about because we live by faith. But it's still, I'm human, right? I still don't want to get in trouble for sharing my beliefs. But luckily down here in Texas, they say prayers at council meetings. I was talking to an employee. He shared his testimony of Jesus Christ at a meeting. He's not a member of the church, but he shared his testimony in like a leadership meeting with other leaders and from different communities. So, and they all appreciated it. They didn't get him in trouble or anything. So
Where did you serve your mission?
I served in Brazil, Rio de Janeiro, Brazil.
So I was in the South, quite a bit east of where you're at, but I found, I think I had a pretty sheltered childhood because I found this lesson about how good people are, no matter whether they're members of the church or not. And in fact, many times better than most members of the church. And that was a lesson I learned in the South, and it sounds like it's kind of similar in Texas.
Yeah, it is.
So
go ahead.
People
sorry.
are what? No. People are what?
People seem to be a little bit different than up north.
Yeah.
And I don't mean that in a bad way. It's just the culture. It's a little bit different. So nothing against anyone in the north. I mean, from anywhere.
It's so funny how we do that. Cause I do it too. We have this thing where we qualify everything that we say because we don't want to offend anyone. We want to make sure we're, but yeah, I get it. So when I went down to Houston. I'm glad you talked about leadership a little bit. I went down to Houston and took a leadership class at a place called Mike Jones Discover You.
Okay.
And
sounds like a good class.
It was awesome. It was a whole week, and they kind of take you through basically, as you've probably learned now, but it's why it's called Discover You. It's like Discover University, but Discover You means, leadership is more about you than it is about anyone else, right? It's about overcoming, like we all think that no one sees our flaws. And if you're sitting leadership, that everyone sees your flaws. It's just a matter of whether you're willing to see them or not. At least that's the case with me, right? Everyone sees my flaws. Am I willing to face them and move forward? But I was hoping you were kind of close to Houston so you could check that class out sometime. Maybe you still could, I don't know.
It's a good, you would suggest looking into it?
I would.
Yeah.
Yeah, because in fact, they do a lot of municipalities. They do leadership for the Fed, for example. The places that print all the money and handle all the coin and everything. They do lots of police departments, lots of SWAT teams, that kind of thing. But I found it to be very valuable. It helped me a great deal. Learn more about myself and the skill sets that I needed to develop more and more. But well, tell me this. So you served in Brazil. What's the biggest lesson that you learned on your mission?
That's a great question. Difficult question. This is taking me back. Got to dig back through the files in my.
Yeah, and you gotta pick one.
Yeah.
If you want to come back to it, we can.
No. I'll think of it. Might take me a sec.
That's all right. I'll just play the dun 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 dun. dun.
That's not helping. I think love for people. Mm-hmm. I really learned from their culture that they really just have a love. A lot of the time it's a romantic love, but they just have a love for each other and for their neighbors, for the people that they've never seen before. You go to a house that you've never been in as a missionary, and those members will just love you and feed you until you've gained 10 pounds. Which was the case for me. They have
only 10. That's good.
What? Sorry.
If it's only 10 pounds, that's awesome.
It was actually like 20 for me, 25. Oh, I came back and lost it all. I was hoping not to lose it all, but
yeah.
But they have a real love for people. It's just, it's not. I was watching one of your other videos. You were talking about politically motivated things, and it's not a politically motivated. They're not trying to get something out of you by showing their affection or their affinity for you. They're just doing it because that's how they really feel. And I think that might be a little bit lacking here in the U.S. We're kind of like a melting pot. There, it's different, a little different down there because people aren't necessarily moving into Brazil, but U.S. It's a melting pot. We have different challenges. But yeah, that's what I'd say. That was the greatest learning, the greatest learning opportunity for me is to learn how to love without trying to get something out of it.
I think that's well said, because so often we want to do the human emotion and find out, well, what's in it for me, when really, if you're loving, it's not about you, right? It's about the other person. I like that. I think that's going to be meaningful to people who watch the interview too. Okay, so let's shift gears a little bit. This might be touching too close to home, but if you knew your time was limited in life, and it is, but let's say you knew the limit, what do you want your parents to know?
Good question. Are you thinking of these questions like on the spot? These are good questions.
No, but in fact, I do actually, when I'm doing an interview, I do think about the questions as they relate to the person before. So it's not like they're not like just general questions. They're questions that I actually wanted to ask you. So
good questions. What I would want my parents to know is that everything that I am, for the most part, everything that I am, who I am, is a result of their hard work and is because of their dedication to living the gospel and showing me that living the gospel is worth it, is a great blessing. And of course, you have the influence of the Spirit, the Holy Ghost. I have the gift of the Holy Ghost, and a lot of the affirmation that I receive through study, through prayer, throughout my life, when I have hard times, is because of the Spirit. But I can always go back to what my parents taught me. They loved me and were willing to work hard, sacrifice time, their energy to help me to be who I am today. They gave me the foundation, and now I'm building upon it. Mm-hmm. And everything that I have is in some way affected by what they did in the past. That's what I would want them to know. And that I know that I'll see them not shortly hereafter.
Right. Yeah, it's relative, right?
And I would take the opportunity to bear my testimony to them, and hopefully that would be a sign to them of their efforts in helping me to understand that the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is true, and that this is the path that leads to joy, not only happiness but joy.
Very good. Wow, you're more mature than I am.
I wouldn't say that. That's not true.
Good. What's your favorite movie of all time?
Of all time, that's very difficult. I love the Sherlock Holmes videos or movies with Robert Downey Jr. I love those. Sure. They don't cuss that much, and it's fairly. I mean, I don't think there's any like inappropriate scenes or anything really in those. So
yeah, they're pretty clean. Yeah.
Yeah. So I love those videos, kind of intricate, get you to think a little bit behind the scenes of how things work, and at least to me it does. But yeah, those are good. Of course, the Avengers movies, they just fit together, and it's like a weave of it's like a blanket. It just weaves together. I think they did a really good job, and it's not necessarily the story that I'm really fond of. It's a great story too, but it's just the way that it all fits together and the work that they had to put in on the back end to get it to be that good. I mean, the digitizing, the images, I'm sure it took sleepless nights sometimes for them, but it's good.
A lot of work. A lot of work.
But on a more realistic note, I think The Greatest Showman.
Yes.
The Greatest Showman, I think, is a really good movie, um, because um, forgetting his name, but the guy, Hugh Jackman.
You know, the
he,
Wolverine.
yeah, the Wolverine. That's what I was thinking of. The Wolverine. He, he helps these people see the value in themselves, and I
Yeah.
hope that one day that I can kind of do that with people, is help them to see their own value. I read a church talk recently that talks about how eyes to see, I think is what it's called. Michelle Craig, I think she's the Relief Society, Relief Society presidency, general presidency, and she talks about how we need to help other people understand that they have value. They're children of a heavenly Father with all who has all power, and they can become more like Him. We can be joint heirs with Christ, inherit everything that He has. Is what He promises.
Did you ever see the YouTube video behind the scenes of them casting for that show or rehearsing for the show?
I haven't. Mm-mm.
If you, because I agree with you 100%, and I bought that movie. I love that movie. If there's a secular movie that I can feel the spirit in, it's the show. It's The Greatest Showman. But I think it's precisely because of what you mentioned, though. But even in the rehearsals and the tryouts, you can see. I'll send you a link because you're going to love it. But you can see the people are going through that same process while they're determining whether they're going to be able to play a certain role in the movie or not. And BYU had a huge influence on that soundtrack and on a lot of the people that were used for the talent pool. And Hugh Jackman, picking up on a lot of that talent. But in fact, the woman that wrote the main theme for that is LDS.
Oh, cool.
And do you remember the bearded lady? I forget her real name in real life, but she's
Kelsey something. I don't
yeah,
know.
she's an Islander, right? Isn't she like
It seems like it. I know,
yeah.
like thinking back in the video, I think so. Yeah, you're right.
So she struggled with a lot of insecurity in real life, and the opportunity to play this role really was so the movie is about becoming, right? And in fact, what they did is they used the development of the movie as a real-time testing lab for people overcoming their doubts and their fears and stepping out there and becoming everything they could become. So I'm glad you mentioned that show. Sorry, I love that show too. So
Me too. Yeah, if it was up to my one favorite would probably be that one, The Greatest Showman, for that reason specifically.
yeah, cool. That's good. Who in your life has had the most impact on you?
Difficult. I'd say the hat or the cake would go to my parents, I think. Yeah, I think they have had the greatest impact on me. I think back of the stupid things that I've done and said in my childhood, and I'd still do them sometimes. And they had the patience, and it's not easy being a parent. I mean, I only have 2 kids, and they had 5. They had 6. I'm a son. And man, it's just takes a lot, takes a lot to want to have kids, one, but then to want to rear them in the way that God would do Himself if He were here. I'm not saying that they didn't mess up or have imperfections. Of course they do, but they worked through them, and I could see that they worked for it through discipline and hard work. They were able to overcome whatever challenges they were facing. I don't know them all, but I don't know any of them really, but just the way that they grew with me is the way that I think of them, is that we grew together. I think that's probably why they are the people who provided the most impact, is that in all my life, they've grown the most with me.
Golly, that's interesting that you say it that way, because of all of your mother's siblings, my wife's siblings, when your dad came over and helped me when I was remodeling the house over there on Fairway, and he would admit this, so I'm not saying anything out of turn here, but I know he was back then. He felt like he was fat. He felt like he wasn't who he wanted to be. But man, he was over there helping. And your mom seemed to me like she always used to smile more than she does now. But it's not because she's unhappy; it's because she's more serious. And so you're talking about growing together. I've seen it. I know what you're talking about. I mean, those two, and maybe it was the scare your dad had with cancer or whatever, but your parents, this to me, are a great example. They seem like they've really grown into the role of not just parents, but even grandparents now. So that's a great tribute that you gave them. They're actually gonna love hearing you say that. I think. I could be wrong, but I think so. What are your biggest regrets?
Of life, or of a certain age?
If you are ever looking back, you're sitting there, it's like what is it, 2 a.m, it's the devil's hour, and you're sitting out in the chair, you can't sleep, and you're thinking back at your life, and you're like, oh my gosh, I wish I hadn't have, without getting too personal, but
No, yeah. Hopefully, I mean, I think it's good to get as personal and as close as you can. Those are the answers that people want,
yeah.
Because we often learn the most from those answers. Regret the most. I feel like I wish in my younger years that I would have been closer to family.
Mhm.
And I'm not talking immediate family. I wish that I would have developed a stronger relationship, specifically with my aunts and uncles. Of course, as a young kid, you don't really know how to go about doing that, and you just fear. There's like an unseeable fear, and then you have it for no reason, and that's at least that was the case for me. That they're not going to want to talk to me, or they're not going to want to spend time with me, and it's an insecurity, and that's one of my weaknesses, is insecurity. I'm getting over that. I'm trying to, and I really wish that I would have made the effort, taken the time, tried harder to really get close to people that have so much wisdom. Just think about it. You have years and years and years of experiences in our family, and I didn't ask about them. I didn't ask, like, hey, do you mind sharing this with me, or talking about what you learned from your experiences when you were a teenager, or when you were at this age in your life. If I would have done that, where would I be at today? I would be how many years further than I would be right now? Not that it's a competition. It's not like we're on a progress map or a spectrum trying to get somewhere quicker. Life is not a race. But oh man, I really wish that I would have taken the time to get to know people, get to know them, and as a young kid, you're thinking about yourself and what you're gonna do, and how you feel, how you look, and things like that. And even I would say this also, not only the aunts and uncles specifically, but older cousins that have, perhaps I don't know how old oldest cousins are, but up to 20 years. And it's not just the Taylor side of the family. I'm talking the Jenks side as well. I don't know much about a lot of them. And I sometimes fear about reaching out and getting to know them like I feel like a disciple of Christ needs to do. I should do. But now is the time when it's hard to find that time now with kids and everything.
I hope one of the benefits of these interviews is that I hope not just on our side of the family, but the Jinx side too. I hope they're able to see your interview at some point and know the things that are in your mind, because as much as you're taking responsibility for wishing you had asked more questions, or wishing you had, been a little more open, trust me when I tell you, your older cousins and other uncles are wishing that they had been there for you more than they were as well. I have to share an experience with you real quick. It's one of the most important. I went to a counselor a while back, and she called these things stuck points and go points. Stuck points are points where they're like held points where you can't get beyond them. You know, there's things that happen that you just keep replaying in your mind. You just can't move on. It's like a ghost that's stuck in a room, right? But there's also good points, and one of them was I had an uncle, Leland, and he had a cabin up Logan Canyon, and I was just a wee lad, a young man, and we would go up there and spend time up there. I was adopted. Did you know I was adopted?
I didn't know that. No.
Yeah, I was adopted, so that has its own set of insecurities. But Uncle Leland, we had a couple of snowmobiles that were old and broken down. Uncle Leland had some snowmobiles that were quite nice. And he used to let us ride his new snowmobiles. And I was little, like a little kid, had no business being on this nice snowmobile. But I remember kind of riding it fast one time, and my mother came outside and just yelled at me for being irresponsible with somebody else's property. And my Uncle Leland stepped out of the house. And he said, Wanda, I'm going to cry. He said, Wanda, that young man is the best snowmobile driver I've ever seen. Now, I wasn't. But it was the fact that Uncle Leland expressed that confidence to my mother that I'll never forget. I don't really remember, other than cracking nuts to eat up there in front of the fireplace, I don't remember anything else about that experience except those words that my Uncle Leland said. So cousins, uncles, nephews, we can have a huge impact on each other with just a few important, lessons. So I get it. I'm glad you brought that up. What's your first most vivid memory?
In life?
Yeah, I mean, if you can remember the pre-Earth life, that'd be great too. But yeah,
Yes.
your most.
That would be something, wouldn't it? Oh man.
It would be. That would be amazing.
I wouldn't like it here much.
No, like, I want to get out of here.
Yeah. First memory. Let me think.
First
back.
most vivid memory, something that keeps coming to your mind. It can be good or bad, by the way.
Well, there are kind of images or pieces of memories, I think, that I have. They're not complete memories, I would say. But one of the first ones was, I remember when we used to have trees around our house a lot more than we do now, or my parents' house that they do now. And before they had put the circle pivot in there, south of the house, there were some trees that lined a ditch. And I remember when we were kids, we would take a bunch of the Hostess snacks that we would get from Grandma. We would take them out there, and we would hoard them. We would hide them. And I think a lot of my hoarding I got from my brother Taylor. I don't know. He not necessarily he was a big hoarder, but he would hide things, and then he would come back later and get them. But we would take our stacks out there and we'd hide them in like an asparagus box. And we had a big asparagus box full of snacks, and we would go out there as often as we wanted, right? As long as we were, had free time. We'd go out there and we would just, play, climb in the trees and eat Hostess. And, it's just like a never ending cycle, right? We would eat the Hostess, and then we would climb and run out of energy, and then we'd eat some more, and then, climb and,
Which place was this? Was this the one up by the canal, or was it the place they're in now?
The place they're in now. Yeah. Okay. So there were just south of the house, just south of the garden, I guess, there was a line of trees along a ditch. It was like a little cement ditch, like 2 feet deep. And in those trees, we would just climb. We would go out there and climb and climb and climb and eat and eat and eat. And surprised they don't have diabetes right now because of all the sugar that we took in. We ate. And
It's never too late.
I think I would say that was that. Wait, sorry, what?
It's never too late to get diabetes.
I know. Yeah. I'm trying to watch that.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was probably one of my earliest memories. Is that at least I think. I mean, it's hard to have a timeline on the little memory clips that I have. I don't know. Maybe my mind was joggled up when I had my accident, but I guess you could say I've had two births. Once when I was a kid, but then once after when I was 14 after my accident. First thing I remember after my accident, I do vividly, hardly remember. Actually, no, I think I was in the therapy center place, but when I was being transferred from the hospital to the St. Luke's Rehabilitation Center, I remember there was a time when they were taking me out of the ambulance or whatever the transportation unit was. They were taking me out, and as they were taking me out, the wind kind of blew into my face, and I remember kind of waking up, and that was the first memory. And I was like, "Whoa, what's going on?" And of course, my thoughts were not collected then. I didn't know what was going on, but right after that, I went back to sleep, and I can't remember for another, I don't know, days. But there were times in the hospital that I remember when we would be together, and I can remember those times. And I feel like those were times where I was illuminated by the Spirit. Maybe not illuminated is a good word, but I'm inspired maybe. That the Spirit was helping me to realize that, helping me to change who I was, to change my personality or my psychology, to realize, take advantage of the time that you have with your family. And I remember there were some sacred parts of the hospital where we visited together, and I still hold those dear to my heart.
Who was the bigger disciplinarian in your family? Was it your mother or your dad?
My mom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have a memory?
Yeah. Yeah. When it came to college application time, not that my dad wasn't there and wanted me to apply, but my mom was like, "Okay, let's go." And it seems like that was the case, for scouting. I wouldn't have got my Eagle Scout without some motivation from both of my parents, but specifically my mom was saying, "Okay, let's go. Come on, you got to get going." And I think it was the same way throughout my life. My dad's a little bit soft-spoken, and there's nothing wrong with that. They balance each other out, and I think my mom took on that role in their marriage more, and he took on different roles, teaching us how to work, teaching us humility, and teaching us how to be good citizens, good wherever we live, good residents. And I don't know if I learned from scouting or from him or from experiences in elementary school, high school, but leave no trace. The principle in scouting where you leave something better than you found it. I think that part of that should be attributed to his efforts. Same with my mom, but I think my dad specifically, because we worked more with our dad out in the fields and working on the farm more than our mom.
That's interesting. You said you can tell what families were raised with those kind of principles. Like when we would go to Zarahemla, your mom and dad were some of, not everyone's this way, but they were definitely of a mindset of leaving it better than they found it, which I always loved. That always something that connected with me as well. Very cool.
Maybe I didn't realize it until now, but that has been a something that I live by, and it's blessed me in several ways. If I start a job, oftentimes that's the case for me. I'm going to leave this better than I found it. And that was the case in the mission. So when I got to a mission field, you know how they have the paperwork, and a lot of the times there was hardly anything on the paper, and they're like, go back and visit later, or tried to teach this, didn't work, and that's all, I tried to leave the area book better than I found it.
Yeah.
And hopefully that helped the missionaries that came after me.
I got to believe it probably did.
Yeah, I hope so. That's been a principle in my life, and I found in my life. Right now, I'm reading 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, and he talks about principles. And as we stop centering our lives on other things, and there are some very good things that he talks about in there. As we stop centering our lives on other things, and we center our lives on the principles, we're fortunate because we have the principles of the gospel. But he talks about principles of excellence, integrity, service, those types of principles. As we do that, we'll find greater joy and happiness, and we'll find success because we're able to be more proactive instead of reactive, and we can take responsibility for our actions, and we end up being able to do more because we don't wait for something to happen before we act. We just act because we're not focusing on family, work. That's not the center of our lives. So that's something interesting I think has really changed in the last couple months, has really helped me to change me as a professional.
That's a great example. Stephen Covey was my stake president when I was in Provo.
No way.
Yeah, he's an interesting guy.
Did you read the book while he was your stake president, or know of the book?
I had actually read it before.
Okay.
And him being our stake president was a bit of a surprise. But every time I saw him for an interview or anything, I didn't follow his advice, and I should have, but he always said to me, "You have to go to Harvard. You have to go to Harvard." I think it's just because that's where he went. And it seemed like people who go to Harvard kind of have their ticket written, they got their ticket punched. They're going to make money and they're going to do well no matter what.
Yeah.
But he was a good guy. He lived what he taught.
I think that's why, one of the reasons why it's so profound.
Yeah.
He lived it.
What makes your wife special or unique?
Why is my wife special or unique?
Yeah.
Is that the question? Several reasons. Let me go back to when I first met Hannah.
Okay.
Hopefully this isn't too long of an answer. So when I met Hannah, just like meeting a normal person, just anyone else, when we were in the same class together, I didn't think of her as being an optional partner or an optional, spouse for eternity. I didn't think of her that way, mostly because I had asked people on dates and it just hadn't worked out, and I had kind of given up on the marriage thing. I was like, I'm just going to focus on school. And so I was focusing on school, and, I just started to see her, to notice her in class. So I started to notice her and paid a little bit more attention to try to see who she was as a person, to see if there was any basis behind her pretty face, right? But yeah, so when I saw her, she was pretty. She is pretty. She was pretty. She still is. And I paid attention to what she did, how she acted in class, and kind of just see who she was as a person. And I'm like, oh well, she seems like a good person. I'm not making much progress on that in that way. And so I, tried to talk to her after or before class, but she was always running in right before class because she did gym stuff before and was helping clients and stuff. And then after class, she had friends that she was talking to that were in that class. And so I didn't really have the opportunity to ask her or talk to her after. So one time we were at the gym and saw her sitting there waiting for someone. And so I just went down and started talking to her and said, "Hey, how's it going?" And then I believe I requested her on Facebook, and then she messaged me, and then eventually we went on a date, and on that date was when I guess it was kind of a breakthrough for me. She was very different than all the other dates I had been on before. And I'm not saying that it was like an aha moment where you say, "Oh, this is the person I'm going to marry." I don't know if we ever have those moments, but it was very different. It was fun with her. She was very enjoyable. I could tell that she was just a nice person all around, and it didn't seem like she was being fake, and it was different. And so I thought, well, I'll spend some more time with her and see where things go. I was still at this point not convinced that I was going to go down the path towards marriage. I'd kind of given up on that idea, and so I was focusing on other things. But I just like, oh, it's fun to hang out with her, so I'm just going to hang out with her and have fun. And if I dump her, then I dump her. And it's not that I was trying to break her heart, but it was like, that's not why I'm in a relationship, to make someone happy or anything. So um, with time, we started to like each other a lot, and I didn't really pray to know if she was the right person right from the start, but I did pray that Heavenly Father would tell me if it was wrong at any point where I saw a red flag. And so I continued to pray like that, because I didn't feel like he was going to give me an answer like, no, don't marry her, or yes, marry her. I felt like it would be more of a consistent, gradual piece of knowledge that I would gain. And so through time, that's what I learned. I expressed to her my desire to get married to her, 5 months after we had met. And I was just kind of shooting for the moon, I guess. I was just like, well, I feel it's fun around you. I haven't received any promptings to stop dating you or to pursue a different route. So I'm going to continue. Would you like to I'm interested in marrying you? And so she was kind of caught off guard, and she had to think about it for a while. She was on a different path as well. She was driven to do schooling and wasn't in the mood to get married at the time.
Yeah.
That's not what she was looking for. And so she kind of had to change her perspective, which took some time, but eventually we got on the same path, and then got married. And I think that one of the great things that Hannah brings to our marriage is that she is very disciplined, and she's not one to go with the flow of things. There are different fads and different different patterns in life. People go through patterns, kind of thing. They make choices, and the popular thing of today is this. She doesn't follow those trends. And so that's one of the great things that she brings to our marriage. One of the other things is financial stability. She works hard, and she worked for her money. Nothing was given to her in her life, and so she had to work to be able to pay for school, pay for her life, her living. Of course, her parents helped when she was younger, but she had to pay for school and her housing expenses. And that's one of the reasons why she did her best to avoid debt in her single life. And now it's bled into our married life, and that has been a great benefit for us. We've avoided a lot of debt, and it's blessed us. It will bless us eternally, I'm sure. And the other thing is that she is one that speaks her mind, and she tells me how she feels, and she tells me when she doesn't want me to do something, and she tells me when she does want me to do something.
Nice.
And I think I need that. That's something that I need to motivate me to do what's right. And I feel like that's something that Hannah is someone the Lord put in my life for a specific reason. And I think that's one of the reasons why He wants her in my life. He wanted her in my life.
Where did she grow up?
She grew up in Oregon City, Oregon, just south of Portland. I think it's just south. It's just outside of Portland. Great city. It's pretty small. Trees, a few houses every mile. There's a house, and kind of spread out. And most of her family is there. Her parents now live in Rigby, Idaho, and her dad. I know, right? And her dad works for BYU, Idaho. Excuse me. So yeah, that was a long answer, but there are several reasons why she's been a great blessing, and why I married her. Not that I knew all of these things when I married her, but I've learned that these things are great blessings that I have, and great blessings that I am in debt of being thankful for to our Heavenly Father.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Do you know what the name Jenks means, or does it have a meaning?
I did this in high school. I looked it up, and I don't know the meaning off the top of my head.
The origins?
Origins, I think it's in England. I think it's England, Germany, something like that.
I was wondering if it was shortened, like if it used to be Andrew back in the day, and now or I'm sorry, Jinx. I'm thinking about your name.
I think
but
I think
Jinx.
I think you're right. I get your point. I think you're right that it used to be something longer, or maybe Jenkins or something, but
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know. You know what? That's one of my faults. I feel like is that I don't do enough family history.
Well, you're still young. I don't even think it. I mean, it's important to me now, and I like pedaling around in it now. But man, I don't think I touched it much until mid 40s. You know, so I think that's part of life. Don't beat yourself up too much.
Yeah. Yeah. No. I don't beat myself up enough, probably. But it's one of the areas where I think I could have dove into a little bit more when I was younger. Um, but
Well,
I feel the need. I feel the need now. But now it's just a little bit more difficult to find the time. The
you may
kids.
know that. Yeah, I actually understand where you're coming from. And that's why it changes when you get into your 40s, is you do have more time. But let me ask you this. This is one you might know. So when you were younger, did you ever have a nickname given to you by your brothers or by people at school? And if you did, where did that come from?
I had a few.
The ones that you can say here.
The appropriate ones. Oh, come on. That's not giving the real raw answer though. I'm just kidding. No, I didn't really have any crude or mean or inappropriate names. So Drew, I mean I guess it's part of a name. It's partial name. But that's really the main name that my family used to address me. Not really anything else. No nicknames or anything. Which is fine with me. I like the name Drew. I like the name Kevin. I was fine either way. But it was easier for communicating in the home, of course, to be called Drew, since Kevin and my dad and I would both answer if it was Kevin.
You
But
could have gone by Kevy.
Kevy, yeah, I could have. I don't think anyone would have called me that though. Maybe, but Bruiser. I remember Jace used to call me Bruiser.
Bruiser. Wow.
Yeah, and I'm not sure why, but I always enjoyed it when he called me that. I mean, it felt like we kind of had a special connection there.
Yeah.
I
That's
enjoyed
kind
it.
of manly, that's a
Yeah,
manly. Yeah.
that or I think the dog on Legally Blonde is called the little Chihuahua. I don't know if that's why Jace called me that, but either way, I don't care. It's fine. It was a special connection. I felt like at the time.
I
And it
had
was
some kids that used to call me. I never watched this show. I don't even know what show it was. But you might know this. But they used to say, Timma. They used to call me Timma.
Timma.
There's somebody in one of the shows called Timma.
I
I don't
like
know.
it. I'm gonna start calling you that. Timma.
Timma. Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool.
Hey, so let me ask you this: do you think you're like either your grandma or your grandpa? Any of them? Do you see yourself in any of them?
Good question. You mean both grandpa and grandpa? Grandma. I guess I didn't know.
Yeah, like, do you feel like you're like any of your grandparents, like their behaviors, their mannerisms? Because to me, okay, so let me back up a little bit. When you hang out with your dad for a while, and then you would meet, Grandpa Jinx, boy, you see where your dad comes from, right? I mean, those two are very similar, at least in my mind. Might be different for somebody else, but. And as an example, like if you took your brother Taylor, I see the times when Taylor's quiet and just kind of pensive. That's when I see him more like his dad or like his grandpa. So the question is kind of like turned to you. When you look at yourself in the mirror, do you ever see your grandparents in that reflection in the mirror? And if you do, and it's okay if you don't, but if you do, what ways would you say you see yourself being like them?
Mm-hmm. I do. Quiet. I am a lot of the times if I'm in a scenario when I'm a little less maybe knowledgeable or I don't know what's going on maybe, or I just feel like being quiet, I'll be kind of like my dad, Taylor, Grandpa Jinx, be a little bit quiet. And there are times when I feel like being quiet and I am quiet, and other times when I'm loud spoken or maybe not loud spoken, but I speak up. I talk a lot more. And I think I am a little bit more outgoing than perhaps my dad and grandpa. Meaning not that they're not outgoing, but that I talk to other people. I talk like, hey, how's it going? I think I talk a little bit more than they would have, or they do, or my dad does. And so I think that comes from my mom and grandma Taylor. I think that comes from there. Of course I didn't meet Grandpa Taylor. So maybe
Yeah.
he was a talker, but from what I hear, I don't think he was a big talker. Of course, that's kind of the stereotype that you think of when you think of a man, kind of not a talker, not a communicator, just a person that works hard. And I think Grandpa Taylor kind of fit into that category. He worked hard. He did his best, but he wasn't really a talker. And there's nothing wrong with that, of course. Of course, there are probably more, but that would probably take me a little bit more time to think of them. But those are the ones that I can think of. I smile a lot, and I think I get that. I don't know if I get that from which side I get that from, but I guess all of our brothers smile a lot, so it's kind of hard to tell. And I guess sorry, I said brothers. I mean Addie as well. She's gonna watch this. She's gonna be mad at me. She's gonna text me about it. Just watch.
Oh yeah, she probably will. Seeing Vard, not Vard Wells, but Vard Jenks, and thinking back on some of the times when I was around more of the Jinkses, I would say that smile comes more from that side.
The Jinx side?
I think so, but it's not that Taylors aren't smiley. I mean, I guess they are, but they're
sober.
It's a reserved
smile.
Yeah, sober. That's a better word. Yeah, I like that. Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, yeah. When I see myself smiling, I don't really like my own smile and stuff, but
no one likes to smile. Come on.
Well, you guys, you Jinx boys all have cute smiles. I mean, I don't know. I think it's probably the thing that endears you to women is they see you smiling and they got to have some Jinx,
I guess.
Okay, so if I walk up to you, not me, let's say somebody walks up to you tomorrow, you're working there at the city, and they hand you a briefcase with $1 million in it. Drew, here's $1 million. Done well in my life. I don't need the money. I really have been watching you. I appreciate the way you carry yourself. Here's $1 million. You do with it what you want. What do you do with the money?
Good question. This question can tell a lot about a person, I think. I think one thing that I wish we could do more as an immediate family, Hannah and our 2 kids, that we wish we could go on a few more trips to be able to go see fun things, maybe go to Disney or go to an island and, see the beach. I feel like that would be fun for our family. I think that would be one thing that I would use a little bit of money. I wouldn't go crazy with it. I, go on a vacation, once every 6 months or something. That would be fun, I think. But I think the rest of the money, as long as our family has enough, I think I would look for ways that I could bless people's lives. And I've thought about it many, many times of, there are people who are smart with their money and they invest and then they become rich and then they have the opportunity to bless lots of people. I was maybe not as wise in the beginning. And therefore it was more of I'm working to earn my living and spend time with my family. And I'm not in the game of getting rich because that's not my motivation, is to get rich. But if I would have had that as my motivation when I was younger, I think that I would have made different decisions, wiser decisions in some cases, and maybe not so wise in other cases. But I would have been able to earn more money earlier on, and I would be able to bless more people's lives. So it's kind of a catch-22, of course. I wish I wish that I could earn a little bit more so that we could we could take time to bless other people's lives. We could donate more. We could give more. Um, that's what I would do with the money. Is I would find a way to invest in myself and in the community that I live in, and in a business or something that would help others to find good employment, to work on ending hunger. Of course, that's a huge undertaking. I wouldn't be able to do it with $1 million, I don't think. But something that would bless people's lives, spread the gospel. There's lots that I could do with $1 million, but what would have the most lasting effect? It would be to spread the gospel. So that's probably what I would try to figure out how to do. Yeah.
I like that, because money, just to have money is meaningless. But if you use your money to have more time, right, which is what you're after, and I like that. I think you're motivated properly, by the way. And by the way, you're still very young. You're going to make plenty of money, especially with
I hope so.
Especially with the attitude that you carry. I mean, I think you're going to do just fine. So don't get too impatient with yourself. Okay, second to last area. What's your most cherished family memory or cherished family tradition?
That's tough.
So when you're sitting back with your wife and you're like, oh, I want to tell you about this. We used to do whatever X is, and you tell her, how many times, I mean, what's the thing that you bring up the most, that's the most pleasant tradition or memory? That's probably the way to get at it. It's the one that you share with your wife the most.
Yeah, good point. I think it would be, well, it is. I wish we could do more is get together with family more often. I remember get-togethers, it used to be every Sunday, and then it dwindled a little bit, and then it was back to like once a month, and then, it's gone back and forth and kind of up and down like a roller coaster. But getting together as a family, being close is great. For some, it's a little too much being so close,
Right.
But being able to get together often, that is one of the traditions that I wish I could have. And that's the greatest tradition, getting together often, being able to work together, to communicate, to talk, to build upon each other, and to rub shoulders with great people, because usually family is they're all great people, right? What is it? Iron sharpens iron. That's the symbol, or the representation, the example that I would use for being with family and gathering often. Those get-togethers meant more than I think that people realize. They mean more than I think people realize, and you don't really realize it until you're away.
No, it's true. Even if it's just time and distance, like excuse me. Because I think back, and I don't know how old you were, if you even remember this, but as much as the older kids, but man, we used to play so much football.
We did.
Yeah, soccer, football. I mean, I remember that field over there in front of, it used to be Grandma's place, but now Wells's place. I mean, that's a tiny little field, but we sure played the heck out of that place,
That was sacred ground right there.
It was. Okay, so then this is the last area. I like that. It's a great answer. So here's the last area. If there's anything else that you would like to say that, or a question that you'd like to answer, or a comment you'd like to make that hasn't been asked or hasn't been prompted yet, this is your chance. This is your chance to wrap it up and say whatever it is that you want to say. You get the last word. Go.
I want to thank you, Uncle Tim, for this opportunity. I feel like this has been a wholesome conversation and has brought some perspective to my soul, and I appreciate you for that, and your idea and your dedication to take this on. It means a lot to me, hopefully you'll allow me to participate in the future. Perhaps I can help in some way on this project. But I would hope that everyone in the family feels that they are able to reach out to me at any time, and I will give them the time that they would like. I love each and every one of our family, and I wish that I could perhaps have a better relationship with everyone. It's difficult to have a strong relationship when you're distanced, but that doesn't mean we can't try to have a better relationship or a stronger relationship. So I would say that anyone who's interested or wants to reach out, please do so. I think it would be good for my soul and good for me and good for our family to be closer. And I think it would strengthen everyone who would be willing to reach out.
Well said. Do you, that is the last word, but I'm just curious, do you do goal setting at all?
Goal setting?
Yeah, like do you, okay, so this is exercise that I used to take the kids through, and it's amazing how it works. But every morning, so here's a suggestion. Every morning when you get up and you got time to do your scripture study or whatever it is you do before work, take 10 minutes and write down, some people say 300 things. That's impossible. Take 10 minutes and write down the 10 things that you would like to accomplish the most in your life, whatever they are. And every morning you write them down or read them or make adjustments to them. But every single morning, commit those things to paper and to your memory. And you'll be surprised at the end of a year and then at the end of 5 years, how many of those 10 things have actually happened in your life. Whether it's this goal of becoming closer or being closer to family, or, you know, what you just stated, I think is such an admirable goal, to be open if anyone were to reach out to you for help or advice or for, you know, for input on something. That's probably going to come your way, especially when people see this interview. You know, they're going to realize, one of the things I love about these already is they help us get to know each other, and anybody who watches them will, and it's already happened. You know, Vard's video, which is only 5 days old, has already been seen about 120 times. I find that remarkable.
That's great.
And Wesley's is in the 70s, you know, and what that tells me, because there's not that many people that have been made aware of these yet, that means they're watching them 2 and 3 times, right? So you're going to get your wish, because people are going to watch this video, and that thing you just stated, I think, is going to come your way. Sure glad you made it, brother.
Me too.
So
Uncle Tim.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've asked people to, or if you're staying away from this, but do you recommend, or do you think it's a good idea for people to bear their testimony? Can I bear my testimony?
Absolutely. I gave that opportunity to both Vard and Taylor. Now, I'll talk, let me preface this. It's not that they passed on the opportunity. It's that I probably steered the conversation inappropriately. And what I mean by that is, we were talking about the way that you teach the gospel, right? To teach the gospel, and if necessary, use words. And I think that they took that to mean that I didn't want them to bear their testimony, that I wanted to hear more about their life, and that through their life, you'd hear their testimony. But by all means, man, if you want to bear your testimony, I would go for it. Just do it right now. We'll cut it right in.
Okay. I am so grateful for the opportunity to live in these last days. We are preparing for Christ's second coming, and I feel it is close. And I am excited for that day when we are able to touch his hands and his feet and be able to understand, truly understand what he has done for us, and how he sacrificed it all for us. And we will be able to understand the power that he has given us through the atonement. And I am grateful for that. He loves each and every one of us. He calls us to a higher purpose, to live our lives in line with the gospel, to live the principles of the gospel and to find joy not only in the life to come, but in this life. He loves each and every one of us, and every soul has great worth in God's eyes. And I say this in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
Sounds
All right,
great.
man.
Thanks
All right.
thanks for the discussion. Appreciate your time.
Thank you. Love you.
All right, love you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.